Okay, next is Lincoln. Lincoln's a weird case. I enjoyed it. It's not my movie. Like, I mean, it's like I talked about how much I liked Argo last time, and that was partially because it had this sort of political plot, but it made it interesting to someone like me who doesn't care too much about politics. Lincoln, but that's like the exception. Lincoln, like, I admit it's a really strong movie, and I get why it's getting so much praise, but it's not for me. Like, it's not an issue of it being, like, boring or disinteresting. It's just not for me. And I feel kind of bad saying that because I feel like I should like it more. But it's honestly just... Well, let's put it this way. There's a lot of the movie that's political lobbying. That's not really my kind of thing. I get enough of that just looking at my spam emails. I don't need Abraham Lincoln doing it. But, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I at least appreciate about the movie. Like, everyone's talking about Daniel Day-Lewis. He is, like, really good as Lincoln. Like, at first, the first thing that struck me was his voice wasn't exactly what I expected. Like, it was kind of like, really? But you get used to it, and it does end up working. Just his manner, and, it's also a really smartly written movie. Just, it's very, like, intricate, I guess is the word. Like, there's a lot of, like, dialogue between characters that you feel is, like, you feel like they're pulling stuff straight out of, like, a famous quotes book. And it's kind of almost profound in that way. Which, it definitely makes it kind of enticing for that. And, I mean, there was a lot of stuff, there were certain parts that I liked. Like, there's kind of a subplot about Lincoln's son going off to, like, wanting to go off to war, and, like, him and his wife dealing with that. And I found that interesting because that was something more personal that I could kind of relate to, at least in terms of, like, being people. There was, yeah, once they're working to get like, they're really getting the amendment, like, they get to the vote, that's when that part starts picking up, I think, because to be fair, that's about the climax, but I do like the climax. Like, it's one of those things, like, just from how much, if you think about how much, the movies this year, a lot of them are based on real things that actually happened, or are just, like, there's Argo, which happened in real life, there's Lincoln, which happened in real life, there's Zero Dark 30, which happened, and we'll get to, there's just a lot of adapted stuff. There's, Les Mis is like the billionth time they've done Les Mis. Silver Linings Playbook's based off a book. It's a lot of stuff like that. So, that's the interesting thing about this year. Like, how the stuff ends. But Lincoln's another one where you actually they manage to add in some tension. Like, Lincoln's probably the most blatant example of this probably didn't actually happen. Except for maybe Argo, but you don't mind, like, at least I don't get too antsy about the whole, like, be exactly accurate, because, I mean, they're making a movie, as long as it isn't, like, too bad, and they're not, like, vilifying anyone, or, like, changing anything majorly, then I'm fine with it, because you're making fiction, which is by definition fake, so, yeah, they're gonna take liberties. and the performances overall were just really good in general, you know. I mentioned Daniel Day-Lewis, Sally Field, Tommy Lee Jones was, like, the best part of the climax. And it's, again, I admit it's a really good movie based on, like the things I've been speaking about, and, like, the writing and the acting and all that stuff. It's just not an entertaining movie for me. Like, I fully endorse this movie and think you should go out and watch it, especially if you think you're interested in it. It's just not really for me. Okay. Next film, Silver Linings Playbook. Last time I talked about how Argo was a pleasant surprise for me, how I went in, like, not really expecting much and got a really good movie out of it. Silver Linings Playbook was this week's version of that. I love Silver Linings Playbook. See, I was nervous going in, mainly because it was a rom-com. And, I mean, to me, those tend to not be very comedic and not too romantic either. But it's... where do I start with this? It's really... Okay, I guess let's start with the plot, I guess, which is... Basically, the whole thing is about Bradley Cooper, who's... That's the interesting... I hesitate to call it a gimmick, because that kind of carries bad connotations. But in a way, it's what, like, just from the base plot at least, makes the movie stand out from other things like this. Both Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence's character, both are kind of mentally... Like, the whole plot is about Bradley Cooper's character. He's just gotten out of, like, a psychiatric hospital and is trying to adjust back to his life. And that it's interesting, because I think a big problem, at least I think other people have with some things that end up like this, are because, like, almost kind of like the whimsy thing that I brought up with Beasts of the Southern Wild. It's like, they try to act like, hey, these characters are so quirky and exciting, and you're like, no, this is insanity. Like, literally insanity. These people need to be checked into a mental ward, like that. The Sandra Bullock movie everyone hated, like, that's a prime example of that, and people's problems with that. This ended up actually managing to switch it around in this weird way, because the whole thing is centered around them being actually, like, having mental problems. It actually managed to get the more quirky vibe that other movies try and get. And that's really helped by the two leads, Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence is my choice for Best Actress. Like, I really liked her before, and she's just great in the movie. And Bradley Cooper, I would probably pick him for Best Actor if Daniel Day-Lewis wasn't there. Because both, like... I mean, I think we've all, like... Not exactly that, but, you know, we've all... especially on, like, dealing with internet culture, which is very much... People are very open about who they are, which includes this kind of thing. I think me and a lot of people have experience with people at least somewhat like this. And it's portrayed in this way where it's like I think the best, in my opinion, one of the best ways you can have a character where, like, they have very apparent flaws, but they're crafted in such a way where, despite those flaws, you want to see them get over the hurdles, that the obstacles that they are presented with throughout the movie. And this did that really well. And it's not even necessarily something I can explain that well, and put into words at least. But they just kind of bring this. They bring a sincerity to it. Like, it doesn't feel like they're acting, which is the best kind of acting. You feel like they're actually trying to get past these mental illnesses and, get back to be more normal people. And it just works. And it makes, like, some of those intriguing and likable characters I've seen in a movie in a while. Another really great part of this is the script, which, like, this is a rom-com that stresses the calm part. Like, it's legitimately really funny, just because it has that sort of awkward, kind of snarky almost humor. Now, I won't say snarky, but definitely the awkward kind of humor, which is one of the kind of humor that I personally love. And it's, again, I'll go back to the likability of the characters, because on the romantic side, like, the ending, it's technically cliche-ish. But it's just because of how the characters are. I wasn't in other movies. It might have been like, oh, yeah, you do, yeah, whatever. But in this movie, I honestly felt something when, the ending happened, which I won't spoil it. It's not anything too groundbreaking, but just in case and for anyone. But I felt something, and I mean, I'm a 14-year-old boy. It's kind of hard to have that happen, at least when it comes to romantic movies, because that's not the kind of movie I usually like. But it's a movie I have very little bad to say about. Yeah, I can't think of too much bad about it. I mean, honestly, it's one of those ones I can just kind of recommend unanimously. Like, it doesn't matter whether you want to see, are interested in it, or aren't interested in it, or usually like rom-coms or not. Just go see it now. Do it. It's still in theaters. You can do it. Run to the theater quickly. Go. But that's enough of that, I guess. And if I say I really like that one.